how does fast-paced walking benefit and improve your lower back pain? That's the topic of this tutorial. What we're going to cover are the main sort of benefits and some of the biomechanical reasons for that. And then in part 2, we'll go through some of the coaching points that you could add in to be able to then start using this fast-paced walking to be able to improve and benefit your lower back pain. The main overriding benefit of this, and we'll explain a little bit more as we break it down, is the storage and recovery of the elastic energy. Now what that is doing is that is putting lower loads on your torso. What that's compared to would be just slow walking or ambling along. So what we're talking about is fast-paced walking. And how we can distinguish fast-paced walking is obviously the faster pace, but also with regards to the energy storage and recovery of the elastic energy, it's the swinging of the shoulders or the swinging of the arms from the shoulders. So what we're looking to do is get into a rhythm where we are swinging. Obviously I'm going slow paced, but we want the arms swinging. Now, what is that doing to the body? Number one is a lower lumbar spine torques. Now the torques is the twisting of the spine. Now that becomes lower because what's starting to happen are more tissues are coming online, and I'll talk about that later. So in some respects you're kind of up regulating how your body works, more tissues are supporting, and you're not getting as much torsion and torques through the lumbar spine because we're getting that from the swinging of the arms, and in some respects we're also getting it from the thoracic spine as well. Number 2 is a lower muscle activity. Now what that means is more tissues coming online, as I mentioned in the last part. So we're talking about the fascia, we're talking about the muscles themselves and the tendons that join the muscle to the bone, and the fascia that goes between the muscles and the tendons. So what we're starting to liken our body to is these elastic bands. So if you can imagine, I've got like an elastic band going across here of muscles. This is across the front and the back, and then one here. Now what's happening as I swing the arms, and we've also got them going down the arms as well. So we've got all these elastic bands all across the body. Now all that's happening as we swing the arms and rotate the body, these elastic bands are being primed and they're going apart, and then what's happening is we're storing and recovering that energy, and they spring back. And that's what's helping us walk, rather than the muscle. When we slow walk, it's just the muscles working, or more of the muscles are working, so there's a higher muscle activity. And what we're trying to do is sort of lump our way along. When we do the faster pace walking, we get the arms swinging, our body starts to turn into all these elastic bands, and they stretch and then they recover back. And it's that springing back that we get from the faster walking. So we stabilize the spine and we stabilize the pelvis by creating that momentum from the arms, which helps us walk faster but put less stress on the body, which seems counterintuitive, but it's the way that it's working. And number 3, what all this adds up to is lower loads on the torso. Because, as I've mentioned, we've got the fascia, the muscles and the tendons working. What's starting to happen is all that load is being spread between all those different tissues. So it's getting spread from the shoulders to the hips, from the shoulders to the hips, and all the way along the arms. So all that stress isn't being lumped onto the lower back and the lower spine area of the body. We're getting less of the torque because all these tissues are online, and we're starting to spread all that stress around, so it's not going to that lumbar portion of the spine, which is creating some of the torques. So we've got those 3. We've got, as I've mentioned, the lower loads. We've got the lower muscle activity, but greater tissue activity, if that makes sense. And then finally, those lower torques on the lumbar spine, because we're spreading it out throughout the whole of the spine and across the arms as well. If we come on to backpack wearing whilst we're walking, because again, this can have advantages for our lower back pain, but there are a few nuances and some context that we need to add to it. So if we talk about smooth ground to start with, obviously I've got my backpack here. Now what we want from the backpack, if we're on smooth ground, is obviously, number one, is we don't want it on one side. We want it even. So we want to have both arms like so. So we've got the pack even. Now if we're on smooth ground, we want the load higher up. So we want it higher up the back. So we might have, obviously, shorter straps around the arm so we can start holding it higher. What that does, that shifts the centre of gravity higher, but keeps it over the hips. What we're then able to do is walk much more effectively when we're on smooth ground. And then essentially the flip side of that for uneven ground. So we want the load to be slightly lower on the back, so we might just loosen these straps, have it slightly lower on the back, but again, we're still keeping that swinging from the arms, but we're just lowering the load, which again is just lowering the central gravity because we've got the uneven ground. Now we're looking at coaching, and as I've mentioned, I've talked about swinging of the arms, which we'll come on to in a second, but there's a few things that we need to go through before we get to that point. Now, number one is we need to be upright. So we need the chest up. Now, what we don't want to be doing when we come upright is doing that or lifting the head up. It wants to be from the sort of thoracic area where the chest and the lungs are, we lift there. So we're now upright. The head's up with it, and we're in a nice sort of straight line, if you will, if we look from the side view. So that's number one. When we do sort of slower walking, what you might find is that you tend to sort of drop down into this position and the hips will then become wobbly. But then we come up, we get into this good posture for our fast walking. So number one is the posture, is be upright. Number two, which will depend on your lower back pain and the sort of comfort and discomfort levels, but it's bracing the abdominals. That's going to help stabilize the spine and help stabilize the pelvis. It's also going to help upregulate when we come on to the final one, which is swinging of the arms. So depending on your lower back pain and depending on the tolerances at which you can cope with, you would be up and you'd have a light brace. The final one, part three, or number three, is the swinging of the arms. Now, as I've mentioned, we need to swing the arms. The arms will also start to dictate what our cadence is like, so how many steps we're doing per minute, but also the length of our stride. Now, we don't want it to be too long, but we don't want it to be too short. We need to find that sort of happy medium, that optimum in the middle. So we come upright, heads up, light brace, and then we start swinging the arms. Now, there's a very important part that comes with swinging of the arms, and that is they need to be relaxed. What some people can do when they come into fast walking is they go very rigid and they sort of go through that very rigid. But what we want is just the arms to swing. They want to be a little bit fluid. There wants to be some degree of tension there because we want that elasticity to start kicking in. But we don't want it to be too much. We want the arms to be able to move so we can be upright, swing of the arms, and then that's going to dictate the pace at which we walk at. So we've got those three very simple teaching points. Number one, be upright. Number two, have a brace that's to your tolerance. Swing the arms, but make sure it's relaxed. And then finally, it's just talking quickly about what will be described as like a walking program or walking in intervals. Now, what we want to do is build up tolerances. So if your back pain comes on very quickly, so let's just say after 3 minutes, you want to be doing this walking for, say, 2 minutes, take a rest. Now, you could use the sort of short stop squat, make sure you've got a pain-free position there. We've got the neutral posture, taking the weight on the knees, or park bench, similar position, resting on here, resting against the wall, but making sure we've got that position. So that is then how we would build that up. So it would be, say, 2 minutes, take a break, 2 minutes, take a break, 2 minutes. Obviously, over time, you're going to build that up. There's no hard and fast rule to say when you should do it and by how much you should do it. You will sort of know that intuitively, what you think you can cope with. If you can jump from 2 minutes to 4 minutes, give it a go. If it works, great, keep doing it. Have your little break in between. If you do 4 minutes and you think it's too much, come back to 3 minutes. So do 3 minutes, minute break, 3 minutes, minute break, so on and so forth. So again, it's just building up your tolerances in a logical and reasonable way that's allowing your torso to respond, recover, heal, and come back stronger in a sense. What you may also find is that just doing the fast walking might extend the period at which you can walk. So again, add that and factor that into how long you think you can walk for without pain, and then the break that you need to take, and then when and how you go about progressing your walking program. Many thanks for watching. My name is Chris. Hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully it's given you insight into another strategy that can help improve your lower back pain. If you like what you saw in this tutorial and you want some more help, you want some more guidance, you want some more in-depth coaching with regards to how to overcome your lower back pain, click the link below. You can enroll and sign up to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain consultation and coaching, where we'll sit one-to-one. We'll go through in detail. We'll talk about your triggers. We'll talk about your pain-free triggers as well. So not your painful triggers, but also your pain-free triggers. Then we'll start talking about a strategy and a rehab plan to then go about how you go and overcome your specific lower back pain. So just click the link below for that, and I look forward to seeing you there.